Hey everybody, I'm Natalie Bencivenga and welcome to 5 Minutes With. This is a really special 5 Minutes With because I've never actually had a repeat guest on. So for all of you at home that may not know, Michael Santiago, hi Michael, it's great to see you. He was on a while back over the summer talking about things that were happening at the Pittsburgh Post Gazette as a photojournalist, but he is no longer there. He is now the staff news photographer with Getty Images, and I am so thrilled to have him on and to sort of see what he's been up to. So how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Whole lot better than the last time I was on here. So I'm pretty grateful for that.
That's awesome. I know I feel like when I ask anybody how they're doing anymore, it's such a loaded question because of the world that we now live in. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that things have turned around in a positive way. So, what have you been doing ever since you left the Pittsburgh Post Gazette over the summer?
So since I left, I joined Getty Images as a staff news photographer,
Hmm.
um, which has been great because I thoroughly really enjoy covering news.
Hmm.
Um, Everything that I'm doing now is just news. I don't do sports anymore. I don't do like a lot of entertainment stuff anymore. I don't do scenes anymore. Um, and it's more now. It's not. When I worked at Pittsburgh, stuff there was pretty much centralized and localized because it was the area newspaper. But now I'm working more on a national scale where I get to um, go to different places. I'm based out of New York, so I cover a lot of stuff that happens here. But I have the opportunity to go to different places and pretty much be at all the locations where major news is happening, and that's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been following you obviously since you've been with us in Pittsburgh, but of course I continue to follow your work, and you've just blown up all over the place. So, what has it been like to be a photojournalist right now, having COVID happening around us? You're out in public spaces, you're at rallies, you're in places that perhaps people aren't being as conscientious about wearing a mask. Can we just talk about first just the safety issues that you're experiencing trying to cover journalistic conversations around our communities?
Yeah, I mean, well, it really hasn't changed since I left Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm still doing the same kind of things, just in
Mhm.
different locations.
Mhm.
And I'm still taking the same protocols. Sometimes I wear two masks. I try and wipe down my equipment as much as possible. I'm always using hand wipes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I haven't been in too many places where people aren't wearing masks.
Mhm.
Um, I think the one location where I can think of where a lot of people weren't wearing masks was at a Trump rally
Mhm.
back in, I think, November, October, something like that.
Mhm.
But other than that, a lot of people, they're being cautious and still wearing masks. Like even when I go, when I cover protests, people are still aware of the fact that that we are in a pandemic and people are wearing masks. There might be a few stragglers here and there who don't wear them or won't wear them properly, but
Mhm.
they're still wearing a mask. And I don't think that this is something that it's going to change anytime soon. Like even with the vaccine being rolled out, I think unfortunately this is the new normal, and we just still have to be cautious from them going forward. This is not. I don't see this going away anytime soon. So we just gotta be, like I said, cautious no matter where you go.
And speaking of that, being in your position as a journalist, as a black man in America, have you felt any more of that sort of heightened energy being in some of these places, covering some of these rallies? How does that impact you sort of mentally and emotionally? And how have you been able to sort of protect yourself from a lot of these things that you could otherwise internalize from your job?
Um, I think the way that it affects me is that it gives me, I would say, like a great sense of pleasure. The fact that I get to be at these
Mhm.
places and documenting the stuff.
Mhm.
I remember talking to somebody at Getty. They told me to look at myself as a historian because we are out there capturing history basically, and a lot of our stuff does go pretty much into archives. So and I'm a history nerd, so I love the fact that I get opportunity to kind of like be out there, quote unquote, be a historian.
Mhm.
So I really really enjoy that. And like I said, it's not just like at one location. I'm basically doing national stuff, so I'm out at a lot of different places. So I would say, like, as a black journalist, is an honor to be out there and being part of that and capturing history as it's unfolded, because I mean, like we said earlier, we are dealing with COVID. This is a pandemic. That's something that hasn't happened in a long time. So every day is our historical image, no matter what it is.
Has there been anything that you've taken photos of that has just like really stuck with you? I mean, I know you're taking so many pictures all the time, and it's easy to forget kind of where you're even at with all of this. But has there been anything that's really resonated with you during this experience?
I would say being in Georgia and covering the Senate race, just because it's something that like there's only been like in the past in the history of America, I think only 11 senators that are Black
Mhm.
in this country, and I got the opportunity to tag along with one of those senators, and as he creates history. Not only that, but he's also, he's also the preacher at Martin Luther King Jr.'s church, and not only that, but we also now have a Jewish millennial who's now a senator, which
Mhm.
is something completely new as well. So like both their wins in Georgia was historic.
Yeah.
Also because they also flipped the state blue as well. Um, so just being there, and just hearing them speak, and just being a part of that was kind of amazing. It sticks in my head. And even now, like, it's been over a month since I was in Georgia, and I'm still seeing images pop up every so often. Like yesterday, I think NPR ran one of the photos yesterday. So the images are still coming up, and these are images that I'll continue seeing like over and over again throughout the course of the year.
No, I just think it's so cool when I see something now and I see your name attached. I'm like, I knew him when. It's pretty awesome. And now that we've moved into this new era with this new administration, as a journalist, as a photojournalist, have you felt a shift from Washington in terms of how journalists are being treated overall? Because obviously the last administration was so antagonistic. Have you felt a shift in your work at all?
I can't really say that I have yet, because since the inauguration, it's been, I mean, it's been a little quiet. So a lot of things that I've been covering the past few weeks since the inauguration have been kind of just like decent,
Mhm.
not decent, but quiet stuff. Like I've had maybe just one rally, and it was a rally for um undocumented immigrants who are seeking COVID relief. So they're asking the Biden administration for help. So I mean, so that's the one thing I would say that is a continuation of what was happening on the last few years. But other than that, like I haven't been at anywhere where I can say that things feel different yet. So I don't really know that I can answer that yet just yet.
Just yet. It's still kind of early. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. And looking at it from like the larger perspective, I see so much changing so rapidly in media, and where we're getting our news from and how we're taking in the news. Where do you feel like your role plays into this changing landscape as a photojournalist for Getty in particular?
Um, I mean, I it hasn't changed from what it was back then, because I'm still covering news um that I feel strongly about,
Mhm.
especially when I pitch stuff. That's never going to change no matter who's in government, because
Right.
unfortunately things don't seem to change. I mean, it seems that this administration is looking to finally make amends for a lot of the things that's happened in this country, and they are looking to bring some changes to this country. So hopefully, like, if I cover some of those situations, it'll be for something, for the better.
Mhm.
But other than that, like, you know, this country's a revolving door when it comes to a lot of these issues. One person says they're gonna get rid of it and change it, and it never happens, and we just keep continuing talk about the same things over and over again. So until we actually have some people in government who can actually bring about some change that is needed to this country,
Mhm.
I'll be covering the same things again over and over again, no matter who's in charge.
Yeah, so even without COVID, it still kind of feels a little bit like Groundhog Day all day, every day.
Exactly, exactly.
As we wrap up this 5 minutes with, I was just curious from your perspective. You're such an incredible photojournalist, and the thing that I love about your work is I love the humanistic element that you bring to every photo, and always trying to find that connective energy between you and the subject. But what is it for you that makes a great photo?
Um, if the photo evokes some kind of emotion in the viewer, that's a successful photo. You know, whether that triggers a memory from childhood or something like that. If it evokes some kind of anger inside you, if it evokes sadness inside you, if it evokes some kind of empathy, especially, that to me is a successful image, and that's what I strive to do every time I hit my shutter button. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I am looking to just kind of just fill those voids of things that I need, but other times I am looking to make an impactful image, no matter what it is that I'm photographing. You know, I want my photos to trigger something inside of you, to make you think differently, or just to like think critically about whatever it is the subject matter is. And that's pretty much what I try to do every time I go out there.
That makes total sense. And my last question for you is, as a journalist, as a person in this country who is hoping for things to grow and change and to be better, what is your hope as we move into this next era, this next phase? What do you hope to see come out of the Biden administration from your perspective of everything that you're covering and being as on the front lines and witnessing history? What do you hope will change?
Um, I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, there's no longer any protest. The people marching in the streets are fighting for a living wage, fighting for health care. Um, those are the two biggest things that I'm hoping to see. Like, you know, if people are out there marching, I want them to be out there celebrating the fact that they no longer have to deal with not making a living wage and not having health care. Those are the two things in this country that I think are, you know, two of the most important topics right now, and will, you know, have always been and will continue to be until something changes. So my hopes that, you know, like I said, just people out there celebrating the fact that those are no longer an issues. You know, like it's you know, we keep seeing the same stories over and over again, and nothing changes. And so those are the two things that I'm really hopeful that will finally change.
Yeah. Michael for president. Thanks for spending a little bit more than 5 minutes with me, Michael.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.